This Week in Startups is brought to you by Squarespace. Turn your idea into a new website. When you're ready to launch, use offer code TWIST to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Rippling, the world's first way for businesses to manage their HR and IT in one system. If you're looking for an easier way to onboard and supercharge new employees, go to rippling.com/twist and get 20% off. And Pilot.com. Pilot takes care of your bookkeeping from start to finish so you can focus 100% on making your business succeed. Go to pilot.com/twist for 20% off your first 6 months of Pilot Core.
So I'd like to welcome up Melody McCloskey.
Is everyone here a founder? Safe to say? Great. And what industries are your companies, just to give me some quick data so I can tailor this to you? Just shout them out. Cool. Ooh, I love it. Nice. Yeah. Construction. Okay, cool. Are there any marketplaces in the room? Yeah, there's a handful. Okay, good, because that's what my presentation is about. So what I wanted to do basically was to share a little bit. I found when I was a founder starting my company, there were a lot of presentations. I mean, this is not true for the person in front of me, but that were very high level. And I didn't like that because I was really I needed tactical help and tactical stories and data to help me solve my tactical problems when I was in the earlier stage of my company. And then also, I hated that everyone was only telling success stories and all like the happy, amazing things that worked so well the whole time and how much of a genius they were. And the reality is like starting a company is gnarly, right? And there's things that you learn, there are lessons that you learn, and you go like this along the way. And so I want to share with you some tactics, specifically around the different phases of the company that we went through and the things that we measured and why, so you can sort of understand how we've stitched up together. So we'll start first with the kind of high-level metrics and kind of who we are, just so you get a feel for that in our scale, and then we'll dig into the different phases of the business, what we measured during those different phases and times, a couple of key observations, and then I'll save most of the time for questions because I feel like that hopefully or most likely will be the most helpful for you guys. All right. So just to give you a little bit of an overview on my business StyleSeat in case you aren't aware of it. Actually, who's familiar with StyleSeat? Raise your hand. Okay, a couple people. Interesting. So we are the premier platform, and we power relationships between independent beauty professionals and their clients. So beauty is a $60 billion space. When I started the company in 2011, 20% of professionals were independent contractors. Today, 70% are independent contractors. And that's true because it used to be that a stylist would show up into a salon, cut hair, leave, and that salon would take 60% of their revenue, sort of for the honor of working there. And a lot of that is because these are artists who are passionate about what they do. They're passionate about their work and being artists and expressing themselves. They are not passionate about business fundamentals. And so they're very thankful for a salon to take all of that on. What they've realized is now they can have a direct relationship with the client, they can market themselves, and when they're independent professionals, which is now, again, 70% of the market in just a couple of years, they get to keep all of that revenue, which is great. The challenge for them is that instead of showing up, cutting hair, and leaving, they have to think about client acquisition, client retention, differentiating themselves, price points, marketing, referral programs, retention programs, payments processing, right? It's a lot. And so what StyleSeat does is we take all of that burden off of them. We handle all of that stuff so that they can show up, cut hair, and leave. And on average, we grow their revenue by 70% in the first year because of our platform. So we handle all of that stuff. And then on the client side, the biggest challenge is you find your stylist how? Usually through friends, maybe on Yelp, via word of mouth, which is fairly inefficient. And oftentimes different professionals have different prices for different people. And it's a little bit, booking with them is very hard. And so we are a destination to search, book, and pay for all of your beauty and wellness appointments. You can search haircut San Francisco, get a list of stylists, see photos of their work, read reviews, book, pay from your phone, done and done. And it's an Uber-like experience on the payment side. So you walk into the salon, it's already covered. You walk out with tip. You don't have to do math in front of a stranger after they've provided you a service. It's great. you all know that panic moment where you're like 23% of $287. It's just challenging. So we fix that. And so this is our experience, right? This kind of is the app experience of what I just explained. And just to give you a little bit of a feel for our scale, so we've powered over $5 billion in revenue to the independent beauty professionals on our platform. We've powered over 100 million appointments. We have tens of millions of clients. We're in over 16,000 cities. We're in over 80% of the US. And then we're also proudly one of the largest platforms supporting female entrepreneurs. So 75% of our professionals are women, 50% of our professionals are people of color. And so that's something that we're very excited about and very proud of. Okay, so thinking about growth, right? And I'm hearkening back to like my own mental state of when I was starting my company early on. You know, you think to yourself like, oh my God, I need to grow. All right, come up with a strategy. Let's do it. Go, 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 right? No time to think. And so what's going through your head at this point? You're thinking, all right, I really want my business to be successful. I really want my community to be successful and my employees to be successful. I need investors to see some big, crazy growth in order for them to get interested. Or maybe what's going through your head is, holy shit, I've just raised a bunch of money and now I need to spend it. And I'm getting a lot of pressure to do that. So let's move. The challenge, though, in thinking about growth is that you really have to be methodical about it. So if you read TechCrunch or all of the blogs, they're going to make you feel this urgency, right, to move because you're going to constantly be reading announcements about other companies that have raised and all the things that they're doing. But the challenge is unless you are very deeply thoughtful about it, and if you've been in this game, if you've run a company for a while, you'll notice that a lot of those companies that were written about and all the things that they've been doing, all the money that they raised, not all of them stick around, right? Those are just kind of the stats. So don't let your anxiety drive this process. Let the data drive this process and let your deep knowledge of your customer and your community and the sustainability of your business grow. I got a lot of advice from people early on in the company that were like, you got to spend in order to grow. You got to turn on all your, all the different types of ads, and we got to deploy capital and we got to do it. And don't worry, we'll just go raise in another 12 to 18 months. And that is one particular type of viewpoint. And there are other particular types of viewpoints. So the more you can be thoughtful and methodical about growing, and sometimes that growth can be investing in your community, investing in your product, investing in sort of the core fundamentals. That's not sexy. That's not going to get you an article in TechCrunch, but that could be the way that you build a $1 billion business by starting and understanding your business and focusing on that. So, if you don't do this well, it can be a huge distraction. It can lead to a lack of discipline and focus because your whole team is trying to think about all the different ways that you're going to grow. And then it can also lock you into a spending vortex. So there are a number of companies out there that are spending 1-to-1 LTV to CAC or even more terrible ratios than that. And they're now locked into that process. And so now you're spending money just to acquire customers. And if you stop, you sort of start to see that type of growth, which especially the wrong investors will look poorly on that. But you don't want to be in a position where you're kind of tied to these artificial numbers that you set yourself towards. So what I'll do is kind of walk you through a couple of the different phases of our company and kind of how we got there, what we measured along the way, and hopefully that's helpful. And then I'll kind of get through this as quickly as possible. We can get back to questions. So phase 1 of StyleSeat, before we were the super robust business tool that we are today, was really about, all right, we want to become a daily tool for these creative professionals. And so we had to think about understanding the customer segments, but thinking about what is the one thing, the very most simple thing that we can be and do that will be so valuable and important that these professionals in their busy day of being distracted and servicing their clients and being artists will want to use every single day. And how can that product also solve a core problem for them that is fundamental to their business? So you want to start at the most essential. We ended up building a client tracking tool. So even though it has nothing to do with being a marketplace, it has nothing to do with payments and booking and things like that, we built an app that fundamentally, when we talked to our customers, they told us, if I'm an independent professional or if I'm an employee at a salon, I need a way to track my client information, history, if I'm doing hair color, providing different services, notes on the client. But I need a way of tracking their information in case I want to become independent someday. I want to be able to take my client list with me. And so we said, okay, that's fine. We created that for them originally. And we said a good way, we paired that with business education, where we said, if you want to get your client contact information over time, hand the phone to the client, open up your StyleSeat app and say, hey, can I get your email? Can I get your cell phone number? And if I offer a special at some point down the road, I'd love to provide that to you. And so we started seeing, when we built this, we had started with lots of different types of tools, but when we built this was the killer feature that really transformed the business. And we were seeing hundreds and thousands of stylists signing up every single month because this was something that was super useful for them. And so we found that problem by paying attention to what they needed. And so then we focus on, all right, we've got this killer feature. We have this app that is very important to these professionals. What is the next couple of features that we can build that will be as important and will make it even more useful? And so we realized, all right, we need to create back office tools. So let's give them a website where they can link all the different places they are on the web. Let's give them a homepage that they can drive their clients to that didn't have any booking at first. It was just, here's my contact information. This is who I am. Eventually, we allowed them to post photos to that page. We allowed them to write recommendations. We did not have reviews at the time. Every single recommendation that was written by a client had to be approved by the professional because the professional is really who we were building for. And then we started adding in automatic CRM on top of that. And we adapted a freemium SaaS model. So we had a free experience and also a paid experience if professionals liked features and products. What was great about that is it allowed us to dip our toe into monetization and to deeply understand everyone will use something if it's free, but only certain people will use something. It has to be super useful for them to pay for it. And so that put a very specific lens of discipline on us and creating this product. And we had to really deeply understand, is this something for a free community? Is this something for a premium community? And how do we grow our premium community over time? And so our KPIs were weekly active professionals. And then are they also doing things in our app on a weekly and daily basis? So important things like adding clients, adding an appointment, uploading a photo. And then we also wanted to measure GMV across the site. So is dollars booked going up over time and how quickly? Then we wanted to become a utility for clients. So we had this engaged base of professionals that were using us on a regular basis, on a daily basis to track and run their business. Then we wanted to see if we could be valuable for clients. And so we created, I wouldn't really call it a consumer brand, that's being generous, but we created StyleSeat.com, which was us knitting together all of the different professional profiles into a search experience. And then we wanted to learn how to create a compelling search experience that had interesting conversion, right? And was useful for clients. So are they coming? Are they searching? What are they searching for? And are they then booking as a result of that?
It's time for you to turn your great idea, perhaps even your startup idea, into a website. What are you going to do? You're going to use Squarespace because you need a beautiful website with incredible functionality from blogging to e-commerce, and you want everybody on the team to be able to quickly edit and update the website, and you want to get a great price. Whether you're trying to sell products or services or promote an online business or maybe a physical real world business, maybe you're doing an event, and we do a lot of events, or a special project, bing, bang, boom, you can get your Squarespace website up and running immediately with their beautiful templates that are customizable, powerful e-commerce functionality, and it's all optimized for mobile, tablet. You make it, it looks beautiful in all different screen sizes. And you get analytics, plus you can buy domains and choose from over 200 extensions. You may have seen how I did Angel.University and Founder.University using Squarespace. It's free, it's secure, and 24/7 award-winning customer support. So here is your call to action. I want you to visit squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, just use that offer code TWIST, TWIST, and you'll save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. I love Squarespace. They've been an incredible supporter of this podcast. And every month, every quarter, week in, week out. They're delivering new features. This is one of the great things about cloud software and the movement. Squarespace just keeps listening to those customers and adding new features. And then you can just see it in the product and the functionality. And the price, it stays the same and the value goes up. That's efficiency. That's what entrepreneurship is about, building a better mousetrap. And that better mousetrap is Squarespace. So go ahead and visit squarespace.com. Use the promo code TWIST to save 10% off your first purchase. Okay, let's get back to this amazing website. I'm sorry, amazing podcast.
So we created a very basic StyleSeat.com. We grew our search experience from less than 1% conversion to over 9% conversion. And we also laid the foundation for payments. And what was great is that clients would go to StyleSeat, search for someone, they'd book an appointment, and they'd want to pay because it would be annoying for them to go into the salon and have to do math and then wait for the POS of the professional. And sometimes they only take cash and you got to go run outside and find an ATM. Huge pain point for clients. So that was a foray into telling us that payments would be an important part of the platform. And so during this period, we measured dollars booked. We measured how many new clients are we driving to our professionals, and then also dollars booked by clients to make sure that those numbers are growing. And then the third phase was really about activating and turning on our marketplace for the first time. So how do we activate our virtuous cycle? How do we become a destination for clients to not only book, but also pay, and not just with their existing stylist, right? Because we were a utility for them to book with their existing stylist, but also know that we could support all of their beauty needs. And they could also book hair, nails, makeup, skin, waxing, facials, kind of all the other types of things that they want to book. And also turning on monetization, that's pretty key. So what we did is we doubled down on our marketplace dynamics and really understood what was working and doubled down on that. So what that meant is helping pros onboard and grow their business exponentially. So creating ingestion tools for uploading your clients, uploading your appointments, getting your bank account set up very quickly, and having a team available to support them in that. We focused on helping pros use us more for more things. So we not only help you in tracking your clients, which is why you came, but we also help you in each of these ways. And all of those ways together will help you almost double your revenue in the first year, which was pretty compelling for these guys. And then it was really about investing in the client experience and helping them book more and more. And so learning, if you've booked this particular service, what other types of services are you going to want to book? What is your demographic? What city are you in? What is your price point? And how can we make recommendations based on all of those data points that are actually going to be relevant and helpful to you? Because that helps us, that helps you want to share StyleSeat more among your friends and get them to book as well. And then how do we maximize the number of appointments and connections that we make between clients and stylists? And how do we maximize that relationship and start to exponentially grow that as well? So during this phase, it was really about what does engagement look like on the pro side? What does engagement look like on the stylist side? And how do we grow that as aggressively as possible? And then it was really about monetization. So how effectively are we monetizing this platform, and how can we increase and grow our take rate over time? So a couple of things that didn't work. I was very excited about a school program that we launched. I thought it would be really amazing to create student portfolios to work directly with beauty schools. Beauty school graduates do not get any business education. They leave beauty school not knowing how to market themselves, how to use social media, how to take a photo of their clients that would play well online and help attract new clients, any of that stuff. And so I was really, really bullish on that, and did not turn out successful. We did not get great profiles of those people coming out of beauty school. It was not attracting the clients that we wanted. And we also found that professionals that were newly graduated were so desperate for new clients and wanting more and more new clients that they were willing to offer like $5 haircuts. And that is not the type of client that we have on StyleSeat. We have much more of a very high-end client. And so it was not supporting. That helped us acquire on the supply side, but it was not the right type of supply, and it did not help the demand side of our market. And then I thought business development would be a really big way that we would grow our business, that we would build partnerships early on with a bunch of female-centric brands and beauty brands. And that would be, we had this huge deal with L'Oreal, and they spent like $200,000 and threw this huge event in New York, and we did a huge press event. And I was like, this is going to grow my business. And we saw literally nothing from it. And what we realized is that was fun and that was splashy, and there's prestige associated with, me and the executive team of L'Oreal standing together and talking about the future of the beauty industry. But at the end of the day, it did not drive any type of value to the platform. And so that was a bum. But just to kind of talk a little business jargon with you, to reiterate what I mentioned before, is how we started to really see a flywheel spin with StyleSeat is starting with viral effects, right? We started a feature that was so compelling to professionals and so valuable that on their own, we were seeing thousands of them signing up every month. And they were signing up because of word of mouth. Stylists would use it. It would be super valuable for them. They would tell the 5 other stylists in their salon. Those stylists would start using it. And that was very, very compelling and helped us get to the first stage of growth. We also then used viral word of mouth to drive stylists to tell their clients about us. So we found that supply drove demand for us, and that the more we could improve the relationship between a professional and a client, the more we saw that wheel spin and that growth rate grow. And then we also saw compounding word of mouth growth across both segments, especially in geographic areas. So when we focused on growing the supply segment, growing our base of stylists in Houston, for example, and we had a higher concentration of stylists in Houston proportionally to other cities, we started to see increasing rates of growth of the client side as well. And so that was very exciting and promising to see. And so we then developed network effects, right? So network effects are when you're able to talk to each side of your community and help them understand, or that it's actually true. The more people you have in the community on your site between supply and demand, the better off everyone is, right? And so in the beginning, stylists would say, well, I don't want to get on StyleSeat because if my client goes on StyleSeat and I'm not available, there's going to be a bunch of other stylists that they could book with, and I'm going to lose that person. And so I'm fearful, and I don't want to go on your platform. And so there was education that we had to give, where we said, you know what? Over the course of the next year, almost half of your clients are going to leave you. And that's just the way it works. That's the industry. That has nothing to do with us. But stylists who are on StyleSeat, those clients are not going to want to go and call a salon and, call during office hours and try and book an appointment. They're going to want to go where it's easy to find really great professionals. And they're going to want to focus on professionals that have great reputations, great ratings, and reviews, great photos, and they're going to want to book with them. And so if you want to be one of those stylists, unless you can prevent all of your clients from leaving you, which is just not true in this industry, you got to have an offensive game, right? You have to have great marketing, and you got to go get those clients that are leaving the other professionals. And so there was a point of education around that. But when they started to see that actually happening, that helped to drive a lot of our growth. We also saw that clients who book using StyleSeat actually book more often with their professional, and they spend more with that professional over the course of a year. And so this is something we were able to show, and to show via graphs, right? Pretty graphs going up and to the right with individual professionals, where we would say, here's your clients that don't use StyleSeat. They call you or they text you to book. Here are the clients that do use StyleSeat, that after their appointment, they get nice little reminders to book again. They get reminders over time. They get upsell text messages and push notifications. And this is how much more they're spending with you. If you get these other clients to also use StyleSeat, you're going to make this much more money. And helping to make that very clear to them and quantifying that to them. So then we would have stylists focusing really aggressively on trying to get professionals working really aggressively to try and get their clients to use us more, because they knew that they would benefit from that. And then we would pair that with really beautiful client onboarding experience, where after they booked their first appointment with that professional, we would help them understand that we have, not only are we a great booking utility between you and your existing professional, stay with them, they're incredible, but we have other people for your other needs. And here, let us show that to you. And because we had a strong recommendation engine, we were getting better and better at that over time, which was more valuable for them. And so this is an example of some of the growth that we were seeing in cities. So as we were getting better at acquiring, retaining professionals and clients and increasing those connections in different cities, you can see the growth starts to drive itself and starts to get more strong, which was great.
When you're starting a company, two of the most annoying things you have to deal with are HR and IT. Human resources and information technology. This means getting somebody on payroll, getting all their paperwork filled out, that arduous thing that you do as an employee when you sign up or when you were an employee before you were a founder. And IT, getting your Slack turned on, getting all your software turned on, your login, your email, yada, yada. Well, there's a new service and we've been using it at inside.com, my startup, where we have over 40 people working, and it's called Rippling, and you can go get 20% off at Rippling, rippling.com/twist. And it is the easiest way for you to get your employees signed up and through the HR and IT process. So imagine if you hire somebody and in 90 seconds, not only did you take care of all their HR, but you also handled their computer and security, sign-on, and access to all the apps you use, Gmail, GitHub, Zendesk, Slack, all these things. Well, you can run your business like a well-oiled machine that connects your HR and IT so you can manage your to-do lists in one place with just a few clicks. And we are loving it at inside.com. Every minute you spend updating employee data and systems is a minute that you don't spend on your core job, which is delighting your customers. Well, Rippling is delighting their customers, and it is the easiest and the most effective way for you to manage HR and IT in just one easy-to-use system. And I want you right now to supercharge all your employees and make onboarding easy. I know you're growing quick and you need to save time. It's never too soon to get into Rippling. Even if you're just 2 or 3 people and you're just starting out and it's the first month of your startup, perfect time to get on board. Rippling.com/twist, rippling.com/twist, and you'll get 20% off. Go ahead and visit rippling.com/twist, and welcome to the family, Rippling. Let's get back to this amazing episode.
I'm Kim, CEO and co-founder of Curl Mix. I wanted to say I choose StyleSeat maybe like back in 2014, but I was because I was in the hair space, but I didn't do hair, and so I was a photographer. But you guys had a really awesome booking platform, so I used it. So it was just very funny to me. But my question,
well, thank you.
You're welcome. But my question is more so around after you raised the money, right? You were like, how do I grow? How did you plan how you're going to spend the money for the growth? Like, I know you had the phases, but how did I'm going to spend, $300,000 on paid ads. I'm going to spend $200,000 on, I don't know, our referral network or whatever. Like, how did you make that decision?
Yeah, so I built all of our financials for the first 5 or 6 years, and I was a French major. And international relations major. So I just kind of teach myself how to build a P&L. And for me, it really came down to calculated risks, right? So when you're thinking about building a growth strategy for the first time, you get all the ideas out. You talk to as many people as you can about just having a great list of ideas. You try and gather as much data as you can about your confidence for each of the different ways that you could grow. And then there's a cost associated with each, right? So maybe one thing has a really high return opportunity, but is going to be extremely expensive to try or very hard and difficult to try. So maybe you make a couple little bets and then you do 1 or 2 medium or big bets. And so every quarter we would have hypotheses that we would have around growth. And we would think through what is the cheapest way that we can validate or nullify if this is going to be a way that we grow. And so, my philosophy has always been have a bunch of ideas, pick a couple of good ones. It's a combination of data and just gut, and then try and be as cheap as you possibly can about testing it. And then if it merits more investment, you do that. So no test was more than a couple $1,000, for example. There was no $200,000 over here versus over here. And I found oftentimes if you can negotiate with a marketing partner, if you can say, I'm ready to spend a lot of money with you, look, I have it over here, but I need more confidence that I should spend it with you as opposed to this other person, help me justify that to my board. I use my board as this shadowy, scary thing in the background where I'm like, oh, I really want to, but my board is really mean. That's a good way for you to be able to be super cheap and just test stuff. Sure.
Hi, my name is Evelyn, and I have a fashion line named Pivot. My question is about how you educated some of the stylists who didn't want to be on your platform, because you mentioned that. But like, did you just reach out to random stylists, or how did you find the ones that were like hesitant because they're not on your platform? So like, what do you mean by that? And like, how did you and how did you do that kind of at scale, like educating those people?
Yeah. So first of all, let's rewind. I, at the time, was no money. I was in massive debt. I had like no business leaving my company because I had almost no money in the bank, and I was just spending on credit cards. I lived in a closet in a house in Pack Heights with like 5 other dude roommates. And like, you know, it was, my mentality at the time was very, very scrappy, right? Let's see. I completely blanked on your question. Where was I going with this? What was your question? I'm sorry.
It was you mentioned educating the people who didn't want to be on the platform.
Okay, sorry. So this is where I was going with the scrappiness.
What that process
Okay, perfect. Yeah. I knew no stylist, and I was coloring my hair black from a box. So like I didn't look very style ready or like ready for the beauty industry because I didn't know anything about the beauty industry because I was from tech. So what I did was I emailed all of my friends and I said, give me cell phone numbers, email addresses of all of your stylists. Please, please, please. Thank you so much, Melody. Got a bunch of contact information for people. And then I sent a invitation that was very fancy and very high end. And it said, throwing a champagne cocktail party for the most high end beauty professionals in San Francisco. You've been invited and you have one invite to bring a friend. And so it like raised the prestige to like this level. I went to Costco. I bought a bunch of cheap wine, sparkling wine, ripped the label off, baked a bunch of food basically, and did it in this salon that was a really high-end salon in South Park. Let them all schmooze and mingle and got them a little bit drunk. And then I said, all right, I want to give you a very brief PowerPoint presentation on something that I would like the beauty industry to be. You know, here are the challenges that I'm seeing. Here's how I want to fix it. I want to empower beauty professionals to take charge of their own success. And here's what I want to do. And so it was very much like I greased the wheels a little bit, loosened them up. But then, you know, it started with, we don't even have an app yet. I would love if you would let me ask you questions about this app. I would love if you would build this app with me. And it fostered goodwill among stylists who were like, I don't know who this crazy person is, but I like what is going on here. I like the vibe. I like this community that she's created, and I want to be a part of it. And I do believe in the vision and the mission that she's, you know, stating. And so that allowed us to get a lot of goodwill among a small group of people. And then constantly I was like, if you like this, I would love if you would share it. I would have conversations. So I'd go into a different salon, 2 or 3 different salons every single day, all different types of salons in every single neighborhood. I would watch how they worked. You know, we would evolve and build the app with them. And then I would say, if you like this, if you're using this, please share it with the rest of the beauty professionals. And so we actually got to thousands of stylists just through that experience. And what we found is that stylists are very one-on-one people. They're creative, they're artists, they love that connection. And, you know, they're not tech nerds in San Francisco. They have a different vibe. And so we wanted to really understand that and be true to that in terms of how we are growing our community.
Thank you, Melody. Could you elaborate why the school program didn't work?
We found that, and this is still true today, so StyleSeat's professionals are the most high-end professionals in the market. They make the most money, they're the most booked, and their clientele is extremely high-end as well. And so we were building a higher-end platform, but we were focusing on a stylist who does not even have their license yet or barely has their license 1 year out. And so the needs of this person, think about this. I need to get any clients at any price in the door. I don't know how to market myself. I'm not very good technically yet. And so I don't want marketing tools as much as I want deal tools, discounts, promotions, referral programs, come in and your first haircut's free. And then we had our community over here that is like, no. I don't even necessarily need new clients. That's not my number one need. I want to enhance the relationship with my existing clients. And so we basically we were onboarding a customer that was not a customer that actually was aligned with our product. And so I think at the end of the day, that's really why that didn't work out. And that could change at some point in the future, but all of that still remains the case today.
You didn't start a startup because you wanted to sit there and do your financial statements and projections and basically get bogged down with your accounting. No, you've got a product or service that you want to see change the world, but you need to have perfect books. And that's why I want to encourage you to go check out pilot.com. It's a great service for startups to make sure your accounting is perfect. And they use QuickBooks Online, the standard, and they do accrual-based bookkeeping. If you don't know what accrual-based is, just go take a look. It's the standard. And you're never going to be locked into a proprietary system because you're using that QuickBooks Online. And you're going to have a dedicated account manager who's going to understand your business and make sure your books are perfect, that you have perfect documentation when you go for that next round of funding. Or when you're scaling, you know your burn rate and you're not going to run out of money. You can say goodbye to exporting CSV files or emailing attachments to your bookkeeper and having it be late and things get lost and it's confusing. And then you go through due diligence and what happens? Oh my God, some investor passes because you didn't have your books tight and it reflects badly on you. Nope, not anymore. Pilot is what you need to add to your financial stack so you can get back to doing what you do best, which is building your product or service that changes the world. Pilot has built their product and service to help you build your product or service in the real world. So here's your call to action. Go to pilot.com/twist and you will get 20% off Pilot Core for 6 months. Again, pilot, pilot.com/twist. Go ahead and visit pilot.com/twist and get 20% off Pilot Core.
Hi, Sarah. You have data. Did you know what metrics to evaluate when you started out? And you're like, here's what we need to track and let's build our platform in order to track those? Or was it like you went?
I always had a strong hypothesis. Like I never lacked a hypothesis or opinion about where we were and what would be important. But my philosophy has always been, I always have a strong opinion, but I'm happy to be proven wrong by data. And there were times, over the course of the business that I was proven wrong by data. And that's like actually thrilling because I'm like, oh my gosh, I just learned something. This is really great. So we, for example, focused on really building an ecosystem, like minimum viable tools for pros, minimum viable product for clients, just to see and understand the dynamic. Like, do pros really just want new clients or do they really want, turns out they actually deeply want a lot of marketing tools. And I learned this at the time when Groupon was really huge. And so we saw these, Groupon was making billions of dollars from the beauty industry. It was 40% of their revenue at the time. And I was like, we should build, clearly there's something here. We should build these types of tools for our professionals. But what we found, like in an instance where I was wrong, is that we found that unless a professional is running their business, they have really good retention, they have a good grasp around their calendar being accurate and clear, when clients when they would check their calendar, that would actually be a true reflection of their availability, that they had an understanding of where their revenue was coming from and that they could retain their clients. Like that was actually more important, even though they were saying they wanted better ways to get new clients in the door. And so we ended up spending years focusing on that operating system essentially to make their operations run effectively before thinking about growing their business.
Hi, and I'm Laura, and I have thank you for this, by the way. This has been hugely valuable to me. A lot of our growth is coming from viral loops and network effects. And so I have two questions. One is how you started to quantify that particular unpaid channel versus other organic growth. And then what your answer would be to how you put fuel on that fire, since that seems to be one of those that gets a little bit, can't just throw cash at it.
Yeah, totally. So I kept trying to throw cash at it and turning on like external growth channels. And what I found is that the core virtuous cycle just kept being more powerful. And I would like scratch my head and be like, well, yeah, this is working because that's obvious. That's just our product. But over here, we should turn on this extra new channel. And then we would try it and it would be okay. And then everyone would be like, this is where the growth is coming from. And I'd be like, I see that. That's just our product though. Like, let's go try this external acquisition channel. And it really took, this is another example of when I was wrong. It really took months of just seeing that, wow, the average professional onboards 250 clients in the first week of being on StyleSeat. Half of those clients become StyleSeat users, and then they onboard another 250 clients over the next 4 weeks, and then half of those clients become users. And now we're seeing cross-pollination. Like, I kind of discounted that in the beginning because I was like, yeah, that's just technology. But that was us being valuable to the professional, onboarding their business, us being valuable to their clients, making the professionals more money, being more useful to clients, and that wheel starting to spin. And it took a couple times, and finally I was like, oh, this is how growth happens. And so, it's trying things. It's like looking at this, the data time and time again, month over month would show that this was working. And it took a couple of these things not working as effectively or as easily. Like maybe it could work, but it took a lot of effort, or it took a lot of money, or it took a lot of time to refine. And so I wish that I had just focused on that earlier and more in the beginning.
I'm going back to a past question about like this, when they're skeptical to come to the platform. So you say at the beginning, okay, you make these small things, but then at scale, how do you keep them rephrasing, okay, this opportunity, and okay, there might be some things like losing jobs, but this is normally happening. So how do you...
What's interesting about that is in the beginning, as we were trying to understand our customer segments, what they needed, how to be effective with them, how to get more of them, we treated everyone equally, or generally everyone equally. And what we started to learn and understand is that, for example, stylists of an older demographic, wary of online booking, not thrilled about it, didn't like giving up control of their calendar. And so there was education that we would provide, and we would say, no, online booking will actually drive you more revenue. And, I know that your calendar is very specific, but trust us, like we've got really good tools here. We could either spend time trying to convince this person, or we could let these other professionals that were of a younger demographic that were already bought into online booking and scheduling and like just thrilled to have our tools. We could go, they were onboarding themselves. And so there were times when we started to understand that different segments act differently, and we either spend all of our time educating, or we just double down on the types of tools that these guys want. I want to be able to upload my client list more easily. I want to upload my schedule more easily. I want to send you a photo of my stuff. I want you to upload it for me. And I'm really interested in Instagram. Like, we started eventually over time getting smarter and saying, oh, okay, we need to double down on you and supporting your needs, which are different. Like, if we had not made that realization, we would have built totally different things that wouldn't have fueled the growth that we saw. So there definitely is the education, but listen at the same time, because sometimes you don't need as much education as you think.
Hi, Mandy from Etienne.
Hi.
Can you tell us about your funding cycle?
Funding, like the process? Yeah. Sure. So we raised, I waited almost 18 months before I raised my first capital. Don't do that. That's stupid. You should raise, I very much believe in bootstrapping in the beginning. I think it creates a crazy amount of discipline. I think that you build products in different ways, in a much more ruthless way than you would if you just had a bunch of money in the bank. But I didn't fundraise in the beginning because I didn't think I was smart enough. I didn't think I would. Like, I was super intimidated by the process. And there's a lot less money in the industry than there is now. This is back in 2011. And so I wish that I had just gotten over myself and gone out there and done it earlier. But we raised a couple $100,000, like less than $1 million. And then we did less than $1 million, maybe a year later. And then we raised a $10.5 million A. And then we raised a $25 million B. So we've raised $40 million to date. Sure.
Hi, I'm Monica.
Hey.
With StyleSeat powering the business of stylists or other professionals, and they're more creatives, how are you onboarding them for success?
We have to be as powerful as Salesforce for their business, but as easy to use as Instagram. And that's really hard. Yeah, exactly. And so what we had to do is really, there's a way that you build something for like a Silicon Valley engineer, and then there's a totally different way that you would build it if it's a creative. And so you have to think about, how do you message to that person? How do you talk to them in a way that they can hear the message? What is important to them? Like, huge learning, a lot of stylists don't care about growing their revenue. they want to be more successful. Some stylists want to be able to travel and also work. Some stylists want to be able to become influencers. And that's a huge career, goal for them. Some stylists want to work with celebrities, and that is related to growing your revenue. But, if you're like, grow your revenue, they're like, sometimes some of them feel anxiety from that. And so what we would do is listen to what they wanted and cared about. And then we would build onboarding experiences geared towards that. And it was a lot of trial and error. And what we found now, for example, is text message support and just being available to them during the onboarding process. Because we would build funnels and we'd A/B test, and it'd be like, first, let's get them to do the profile. Now let's get them to book first. And we'd just, all this A/B testing, what we found is that they just want a little bit of hand holding. So then the question is like, how can we help them get what they need in a more automated way that is ROI positive, but also maximizes onboarding? So that's kind of how we thought about it.
Hi, I'm just curious, how many pros did you have on to feel like you could ask them what they wanted and it validated building your next feature or building some of the core features you were providing them?
The way I thought about it was in understanding the market as a whole. And I tried to understand who are the customers that are not on StyleSeat, just that exist in the market. What is the TAM for those customer segments? And then let's find those customer segments on StyleSeat and let's understand them that way. So there was never a moment where I was like, well, now we finally have enough data to be statistically significant or to have a true read on the industry. I mean, maybe when we had thousands of stylists is like the easy answer, but I thought about it a little bit differently. And I would constantly talk to customers that were not on StyleSeat and ask them how they would think about the decision-making process for a platform like ours, what they actually wanted in their business and what their goals were. Because I found that if you just optimize for the customers that you have, you're going to do one thing versus optimizing for the customers that you want in the future, which is a very different thing.
I'm Agya from Avia, and we have also taken a very end-user-centric approach, as you guys have, which I love seeing. But we, instead of a marketplace, we do have just a consumer product, but more so on the health side. And now we're trying to come around, like, developing this consumer brand around it. And how did you take it from building this product to actually building a brand around it?
So we are still in the beginning phases of building a brand. We're one of the largest companies that not a lot of people have heard of because we've been very pro-centric. And that is because all of our growth is driven from the supply side, and that's where we focused all of our energy. Like, I wanted to focus more on the consumer side earlier on and be a consumer brand because that was like sexy and cool and fun. And the beauty industry is fun, and I love the end client, right? But I could never justify it from a metrics perspective. So just now we're starting to do that and really think about the consumer experience and how we talk about that. We also, first we had to start internally. So it was hard for my team, which always had the lens of how do we help these professionals? How do we help these professionals to then think about the clients? That shift, we had to start like 2 quarters before we were really ready to turn it on because it's, you're focused just on one thing and then you focus on 2 things and you just forget to always think about things from 2 perspectives. And then we had talent hires that we wanted to make. So people that had consumer experience. Previously, we had focused on like SaaS and payments experience. And then we said, all right, we want people that have worked at consumer companies because they have a different mindset. They build things in different ways. And then it started expressing itself in the product and in the brand. And then now it will continue to do that as that becomes increasingly our focus. But it's not easy and it has to come internally and you have to start talking about it long before you're ready. And then slowly as you start improving the client experience and as you start doing more PR and as you start talking about that more, it becomes more natural.
How many stylists are there in the United States and what percentage of the market do you have now?
There's about 1 million stylists in the United States. It's a $60 billion industry. We don't talk publicly about how many stylists we have on the platform. But I'll tell you that our biggest competitor is pen and paper.
Real quick on the marketplace, we have a fintech marketplace, and I'm just curious from a funding perspective what you found in terms of defensibility. What are the key things that you're sharing so that they get, here's why someone can't really replicate StyleSeat? Well,
in the beginning, we had the benefit of no one wanted to build tech for the beauty industry. So we were pretty differentiated in that everyone else was sort of incumbent and they were older and they were built in the Midwest, and these platforms, like one of our competitors was built on .NET. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was easier to sort of say, we get our customer is the Instagram customer and they are Microsoft 95, right? But that becomes different over time as our competitive landscape has heated up a little bit, and as there's more money in the space for beauty. Like, thank you, Kylie Jenner, and thank you, to a bunch of Glossier and a bunch of these companies that are really doing well. Like, it takes that for investors to be like, I should look at this beauty industry. Maybe there's something there. So that has definitely changed the landscape over time, but the composition of our team and the skill set that we have internally, like I hired the head of data science at Pinterest to come and run my operations and my data team. We have pretty amazing technical talent underneath the scenes, and we've laid a lot of foundation that is not evident when you go to StyleSeat.com today, but will be a big part of our roadmap and defensibility. There's less patents to be had in terms of being a marketplace, like a business product and also a consumer destination. There were trademarks that we thought about before we were publicly using them. Like, we still own a lot of trademarks that will be a part of some future programs that we're going to be launching. And I would say it's more reflected in our technical stack and our ability to launch things. Like, our data and our data is very high. Our tech debt's very low. We have a really amazing team on execution. So it's hard for me to talk about this without having a one-on-one conversation, but okay. All right, good.
Hi.
Hey.
First of all, you're like the goddess of founders, and I'd love to be you one day.
Oh my God, thank you. I don't know what that means, but I love it.
I know, but it's Instagrammable though, or Twitterable. So you started in living in a closet with 5 other guys. I mean, not in the closet with you, but and now you've got $40 million. How are you maintaining that same discipline around spending and appropriate spending when your money is so huge now versus being really afraid to spend the money because you might be wasting it, right? Like, the balance.
Yeah, so I'll answer 2 parts to that question. One is that like scrappiness. Okay, so when I started my company, my dad is a police officer and a first responder. My mom has been a stay-at-home mom. So when I started this company, it wasn't like, oh, I'm from an Ivy League school and I'll be able to get tons of really interesting jobs, right? Everyone's trying to hire me. It was like, oh my God, this is my one shot. And that feeling of, if I mess this up, I don't know if I'm going to get another shot, is really ingrained in me and part of my DNA. And I remember that. It has not left me. And I tell that story to new hires that we have, because I say, this is my philosophy about decision making. Everything is data driven and everything is ROI. We make calculated risks. People think that startups are about huge opportunity and huge risk. And the reality is, you try and maximize opportunity and minimize risk as low as you can. And so I try and be as transparent as I can about how we spend our money, how we spend our roadmap, how we spend people's times, and how each of the bets that we're making is highly calculated, and it's part of learnings from previous quarters. And when we make an investment in a new channel, this is our expectation for return, and we'll see, and we'll let you know how it goes. And that type of transparency, I think, and clarity around decision making, hopefully lets everyone know that they should be prioritizing their time in the same way, and the same expectation of what they do. The same expectation I have for planning and strategy, I have on each of them in their roles. And we're also very clear about like the triangle of decision making. And there's three factors, and you get to pick 2 when you're making a decision. And I make everyone tell me which 2 they're optimizing for, which 1 or 2. And that helps people sort of make their own decision making. And then on the other part of your question, like, I'm just a cheap person. I have no interest, and I've told this to my team, it's why we don't really have a very big marketing team. It's why we haven't had a big design team. It's why, frankly, StyleSeat isn't as strong of a consumer brand as it will be in the future, because the ROI has never been there. And we need to earn our way into being that really amazing consumer brand, because I don't want to waste money because I might not have another opportunity. So that's just my own personal philosophy.
think one more. Yep.
Yeah, first of all, I liked your answer, previous answer.
Thank you.
I really like that. My question is, as far as I understand, you taught yourself a lot along the way because you said you didn't go to this, shiny bright Ivy schools or any other business schools. So what was the role of mentors and advisors, and did you really teach yourself, or did you have like very strong coaches along the way?
Great question. I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning because I didn't ask for enough advice. And part of that is because, you guys know this, there's very much a boys club in Silicon Valley, and they all hang out together, and I was like at home working when they would like go out together. But then when they would go out together, because I don't like drinking. I don't like drinking in San Francisco with other work people. It's not my thing. But when they were out doing the little boys club stuff, they would ask each other questions and, I'm trying to think about this, and I'm trying to think about hiring this person. I know someone. So I was missing out on a lot of that. And what I realized is, all right, there's a club and it's fine. It's all good. And I totally feel comfortable actually hanging out, in those circles. But I need to start leveraging my network a lot more. Like what I started to learn over time is that I have a strong network, and I didn't think it was an asset because I was like, but yeah, those are just my friends. I need to solve this problem. I need the world's expert in, marketplaces. And someone's like, you're close with Travis Kalanick at Uber. And I was like, oh, I guess I am. Maybe I should ask him some questions about how to grow. I guess he does know a little bit about that. Right. But it didn't occur to me. And so I started to do that more. And now, as we are getting to the next phases with the company, I ask everyone. I am on speed dial or text message threads with tons of leaders and heads of marketing and heads of really amazing men, women, whatever, executors, right, operators in Silicon Valley, because I'm like, and I'll send crazy text messages. I'm like, at 2 a.m., I'm like, I'm thinking about building my marketing team, and I need to, ask a very specific question, and, someone will answer me the next day, and they're like, you're nuts. And I'm like, whatever, give me, what should the answer be? Because I really like learning and getting smarter. But I would rather get a bunch of data points and then make my own decision as opposed to trying to educate myself on every little thing. Because you're just never going to come up with a better answer than if you ask people. And I ask a ton of questions. I'm like, okay, so why do you say that? So what are the dynamics? Let me explain the specific dynamics of the question I'm trying to solve. Now, I understand that you said that, but you also work at a larger company. If we had a smaller team, would you still think about hiring that person or that level? Oh, well, I think I might hire a different level. Okay, tell me about that. I really like to go super deep, but in 3 minutes, so I don't waste people's time. And then you always got to give that back. You have to give back to the community and support others and answer their questions and take their 2 a.m. phone calls and things like that. So it's time intensive, but I think it also saves a lot of time as well.
Oh, Melody, amazing. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
sharing all this.
Appreciate it.
This is great.